saying. All that to say, we have not seen anything at this point that would indicate that we need to adjust our strategic force posture. So we'll continue to monitor that, but at this point, there's been no change to our posture. Let me go to the phone here. Missy Ryan, Washington Post.
Hey, Pat, thank you. Just going to ask you a question you've been asked previously in the past week about Iraq and the statements by the Iraqi government about the apparent agreement to withdraw U.S. forces over the next 2 years. Are they accurate? And I know you've said that you can't confirm that just now. Can you, number one, is that still the case? And number two, can you talk about what has been agreed to in principle? Is it accurate to say that the U.S. and Iraq have agreed in principle to withdraw all U.S. forces? Is just a question of when and how? That's my understanding. Just want to make sure that that's correct.
Yeah, thanks, Missy. So yes, to answer your question with your question, I don't have anything new to announce. As we've highlighted, we have been discussing with our Iraqi partners what the transition from the global coalition in Iraq, what that transition would look like to an enduring bilateral security partnership between the U.S. and Iraq would look like. Again, we'll keep you fully informed when we have something to announce, but as of right now, I do not have any updates to provide. Thank you. Let me go to J.J. Green, WTOP.
General, thank you. Ukraine's President Zelensky said a little earlier today that they believe Russia's begun a counteroffensive in the Kursk region, and I'm interested in knowing what the Pentagon, thinks this means for this conflict when you consider what we've learned from the building and from U.S. intelligence about Russia gathering weapons as well, including ballistic missiles from Iran in recent days, and how this impacts the future and the U.S. plans to support Russia.
Yeah, thanks, JJ. So, what we have seen is Russian units beginning to try to conduct some type of counteroffensive in the Kursk region. At this stage, I would say that it's marginal, but something obviously that we're keeping an eye on. And then I'm sorry, the second part of your question.
Just how the building might view this activity, what you just mentioned, what you've seen in the context of getting these weapons, which we were told this week the U.S. has proof of from Iran, the ballistic missiles, and there are other plans to try to essentially attack Ukraine's energy infrastructure as winter comes.
Sure. So first of all, with the caveat that I'm not going to discuss intelligence from the podium here, nor am I going to provide a daily update on Russian employment of various capabilities. As of right now, we have not seen them employ those Iranian missiles yet, although one can expect that they would in the relatively near future. But again, if you take a step back here in terms of what we're focused on, it's on enabling Russia to defend its sovereignty and deter future Russian aggression. So both urgent needs and long-term needs. And as we go into the winter, making sure that they have the capabilities from an air defense standpoint to protect critical infrastructure like energy infrastructure, which we know the Russians are targeting, but also at the same time that they have the capability they need on the front lines like armor and artillery, ammunition, to be able to check any type of Russian operations, for example, near Pokrovsk, and elsewhere in the battlefield, to include in the Kursk region. So it'll ultimately be up to the Ukrainians as they design their campaign plans on how they're going to employ those forces. But certainly our focus is on ensuring that they win and that they have the upper hand when and if they decide they want to go to the negotiating table. Let me go to Howard Altman.
Hey, thanks, Pat. I want to drill down a little further on Ty's question about the Israeli raid in Syria. Did the Israelis inform the U.S. either before or after that raid that was being conducted? And given that they are a CENTCOM member and also receive a great deal of U.S. aid, should they inform the U.S. either before or after this raid took place?
Thanks, Howard. Again, I mean, I've seen that press reporting, but for any questions as it relates to any Israeli operations, I'm really just going to have to refer you to them. I just don't have anything to provide on that. Let me come back to the room. Yes, sir.
Hi, for the Daniele Compatangelo for the Italian television. Thank you, General, for taking the question. I have a question regarding the strike of the Israeli on the school in Gaza a few hours ago.
Okay.
There was some reports we read in Europe some report about France and Germany and the Great Britain deciding to provide less weapons from now on to Israel because of this fact that keep happening. What is the position of the U.S. in light, from the military perspective, in light of what just happened? If you have anything to say.
Sure. So a few things. So first of all, I don't have any information to provide on the particular strikes that you're referencing, other than to say that from the very beginning of Israel's operations, we've been very clear about the importance of taking civilian safety into account, both from a planning and operations standpoint, and both publicly and privately. And I would point you to Secretary Austin's public comments and to the readouts that we've issued. This is a topic of frequent discussion between him and his Israeli counterpart. The bottom line is we believe that Israel has both a strategic and a moral imperative in terms of protecting civilians. I will also highlight, though, that there is culpability on the side of Hamas in terms of their techniques, and procedures of embedding their operations within civilian infrastructure to include schools, hospitals, mosques. We just recently saw, when they executed 6 hostages in their tunnel network underneath Gaza, the extensive amount of infrastructure, money, resources that they've spent on building this massive tunnel network, which is approximately the size of New York City. And instead of using those funds and using those resources to help the Palestinian people, they've instead created a tunnel network to conduct combat ops from. This is the challenge that Israel is up against. We do not want to see any civilians killed in this conflict, whether they be Palestinian or Israeli, and we'll continue to work towards that. This is why a ceasefire deal is absolutely essential now, and getting all of the hostages released immediately is so important, and we'll continue to work towards that. Thank you. Tony?
A couple questions. Does the fact that the United States now has a one-carrier presence in the Middle East, and the AO Middle East, the normal presence, by the way, is that an indication that you feel